When you reach that point of awareness of, I am really struggling with sugar, and there's that recognition that my relationship with sugar is painful, is causing tremendous suffering in my life, and is impacting my physical and emotional and psychological well-being. You reach that point of decision where it's, am I wanting to actually address this? That's what usually propels them on the journey of seeking out information about sugar, whether it's understanding sugar on a biochemical level, understanding sugar's impact on the body, studying nutrition, the emotion and psychology of sugar, all those things. Because at that point, that free-for-all, while it felt good initially, is not feeling so good anymore. It can feel like any addiction feels, where it is out of control, where it's driving you, where there's this sense of hopelessness or despair or frustration that this thing with sugar is even going on. It can start to impair other aspects of your life, whether that's your work life or your relationships, and eventually undermine your very sense of self. I went through a process of healing that I wrote about in Overcoming Sugar Addiction that described my journey of how I went from this space of binging on sugar, ultimately trying to control how much sugar I was eating, to a place of acceptance where I wasn't eating sugar. I would wake up every morning with this hope that I am not going to binge on sugar today. I'd have every intention of saying no, of eating like a, quote, normal person. And then by 2 or 3 in the afternoon, all those good intentions would go by the wayside. And it might start with some raisins, it might start with some granola, it might start with some candy, but I'd have those tastes of sugar, and then it's like all hell would break loose. I'd hide from other people. Again, I would vow, okay, tomorrow it's going to be different. Tomorrow when that urge to binge on sugar arises, I'm going to be able to say no. And then at some point, I would find sugar and it would become this free-for-all binge. I felt more and more isolated, more and more shamed, and feeling like, will I ever be free of this relationship that I have with sugar? I had been writing some articles about my sugar journey, and I was getting emails from people saying, how did you do it? How did you stop eating sugar? And so after I wrote the email 10 or 15 times, I thought maybe I should just write this down once. And so Overcoming Sugar Addiction is really a story of my journey. This is what my sugar obsession and my sugar addiction looked like. This is how I went through the detox period and the letting go of sugar. And most importantly, this is the interrelating that I needed to do in order to let go of sugar in my life. So it's a map of, these are the steps that I walked on the journey with sugar. I had struggled with sugar for so long that after I went through the detox process and I was no longer caught in those seesaws of trying to control how much sugar, and then binging out of control, and then waking up the next day and facing the same path that was so painful and so isolating, that there was this freedom and this lightness of no longer being in that addictive relationship. It was like being let out of prison. When I wrote Overcoming Sugar Addiction, there was a lot of awareness coming into the public eye about sugar. And so there were several people who were writing and teaching about how to eat less sugar. The question that seemed to stump most people was not, why should I eat less sugar? Or even the nuts and bolts of not eating it. They understood that. It was the yes, but how question. Well, okay, so don't eat it. Well, how do you do that? How do you handle situations like birthday parties, like holidays? How do you care for all the feelings that come up? How do you care for feelings of deprivation? I remember I used to dread every holiday, every birthday, every place of celebration where sugar would be present, because I knew it would be this huge temptation with a capital T. Whereas now there was more peace, and there was a sense of, I can handle this. So there was a confidence in myself and a resiliency that I knew I'd be able to face sugar. It wasn't quite the demon or the monster that it had been in my life for so long. If I had to pick a word that characterizes my approach, it would be compassion. And that it is through a gentle and a compassionate relating to the desire to eat sugar, to all the emotions that come up, all the needs, that healing and transformation is possible. That's the tone that runs through Overcoming Sugar Addiction, and I think it's that tone that people responded to. Because when they picked up my book, they didn't feel like, oh, this is one more book that's telling me what I should be doing differently, and one more thing I'm going to feel bad about myself. There was a tone of real acceptance and compassion and understanding. So people felt both encouraged by that as well as really invited. There was this sense of, no matter where you are on your sugar journey, it's okay. And in that invitation, there is tremendous rest and ease.